I believe that in this society, in this world, we have a problem talking about our relationships. We have a problem talking about our dating lives. Why? Because there's a stigma around it. Typically speaking, in schools, which is where we first go to be indoctrinated into society, we're taught not to talk about our dating lives or our relationships. We're taught to focus on things like English and math and social studies and science. All of those things are cool. They're fantastic. However, we have a hard time with our relationships. We have a hard time talking about our dating lives because we don't have a space to talk about those things or those issues. Everybody that I've ever met in my entire life has had a dating problem or a relationship problem. And yet, for some reason in this society, we do not talk about it. Why? We don't talk about it because it's uncomfortable. Because perhaps the answers to our problems are not politically correct. That is ultimately what attracted me to this profession of coaching. What attracted me to focusing in on the psychology of dating and relationships, particularly between men and women. So what's at stake here? I found myself, when I was younger, being fascinated by women. I think many men feel that way, but for some reason I was fascinated by women, but I wasn't taught about them. And I was also raised in a family where essentially my dad was a single dad and he raised me, and my mom wasn't around. I won't go into those personal details now, but essentially I was raised by my dad. And so I had no idea about women. I had no idea what they liked. I had no idea how to deal with them. I had no idea how to interact with them. And ultimately that impacted my results. That impacted my understanding of women in my relationships, whether it was dating casually or serious long-term relationships. And so I became interested. And I'm a bit of a nerd, so I started reading. I started learning and interacting with women. And over time, I started getting the results that I wanted. But the first step that I took before I actually started to get the results that I wanted, the first step that I took was I was honest with myself. I was honest about what it was that I wanted in my relationships. However, there's more to it than just that. I realized that I had an ego issue, an ego problem. I learned that the ego was what was getting in the way of me actually admitting that I needed help in my dating life, in my relationships. I see that that is still the problem to this day. I see a lot of men today, in particular men, who are dealing with dating and relationship issues, but they're not asking for help. And the reason why they're not asking for help is because of their ego. They think that they are happy. They somehow rationalize that they're happy, when in reality they're not. When you destroy the ego or confront the reality that you are not happy with your results, that's when magical things happen. That's when things change for you. But if you don't confront your ego, then you are not going to have the results that you want in your life. With that said, let's talk about what's at stake. In my coaching practice, I've noticed a lot of patterns, things that I want to talk about on this podcast, things that I want to talk about that are important to talk about because not many people in this society are talking about it. Number one, men are depressed. Men are having a hard time connecting with women. Why? They're having a hard time connecting with women because they don't know what they're doing. And they haven't been taught what to do in their relationships with women. Women are unhappy with men. 80% of women divorce men. 80%. That means most women are leaving men. Why? There are many reasons why. A lot of women today would say, well, you know what? It's because the men don't measure up. And that's true. Part of it is that men are inadequate. However, there are things that they can do to actually improve their results. Today, in this podcast today, I'm actually going to talk about 10 things that men can do that can drastically help them in their relations with women. Drastically. I'm going to give that advice away for free today. Why? Because I care. Why? Because it needs to be said. This is bigger than me. This is not about fame or accolades. This is about helping people that were in my shoes. I was a guy who struggled with women. And I overcame that when I destroyed my ego. And so this podcast exists solely to assault the ego. Why? Because what's getting in your way is humbling yourself. And we live in a world today where we are entitled, where we believe we deserve results, where we believe we deserve things that we haven't earned. And one of those things that we're going to have to earn as men, is the respect of women. And it begins by admitting that you do not have their respect, that you are not respectable, and that there are things you have to do in order for you to evolve, to level up. And my job as a coach, as a relationship and dating coach, is to help you level up your dating life and your relationships with women. Now, this podcast is going to be for men and women because I'm going to be specifically talking to men. However, women will learn about the things that men struggle with in their relationships as well in this podcast. So if you're a woman and you're listening, you will learn about what men go through in order to level up, to be qualified to earn your respect and admiration. Many men in my practice ask me this question. They say, JC, what is it that women want from men? Here's the answer, and I'm going to spell it out as clear as day for you. I'm going to say it, and I want every man in the world to listen to me carefully. There isn't a woman that I've ever met who disagreed with this statement, so I'm going to say it very, very clearly. Women want a man that they respect and a man that they admire. Admiration isn't optional for a woman to be happy with a man. It is required. And so many men get this wrong. They think it's the money. They think it's status. They think it's game. They think it's humor. They think it's personality. All of those things help. They contribute to the ultimate objective, which is a woman wants a man that she respects and admires. So in this podcast, my job as a coach is to give you free advice. Why free? Because I know that by giving value to men, giving value to the world, that I will receive it on the back end. I know that if I help men, that everybody will be happier, women and men. because it's about results. Women are leaving men because the men are inadequate. And there are a lot of guys online that I see now who blame women for things like hypergamy or this, or women are just gold diggers. They're looking for this. This is not true. None of this is true, because what I found is that when a woman respects me, when a woman admires me, then ultimately she's happy. And I won't go into my personal life because that's none of your business. I'm a professional. My job is to help you be better, to give you the tools and the knowledge necessary for you to be the best version of yourself, to level up your dating life, to level up your relationships. And the only way I can do that is by being raw and honest with men. And now I know there's a lot of women who are like, oh yeah, go ahead, JC, go get those men. That's cool. That's awesome. I'm glad that there are women out there who are on my side. But there are things that you women have to do as well to get the men that you want. But I'm not going to focus on that right now. I'm going to focus on the men. Why? Because the men are the ones who are depressed. And they're not telling you this. They are unhappy with their results. There are men who are being left by women. There are men who have suicidal thoughts because of women. There are men who can't get by women. There are men who can't keep relationships with women. Men are in trouble right now, and that is who I'm concerned with at the moment. There will be podcasts where I do address the women because they need to be held accountable as well, but there are tons of podcasts that do that now. My job is to hold the men accountable. My ultimate goal in life, just in life, not even just for this podcast, just in life, is that we talk about things that really matter to human beings. Relationships, health, meaning mental, physical, spiritual, etc., and money, meaning finances, wealth, how to build a business, etc. My ultimate dream is to have schools where we teach those three things. Why? Because those three things are ultimately connected to our happiness as human beings. Relationships, health, and wealth. That's it. Everything else is non-essential. There isn't a person I've ever met in my entire life who I considered successful, happy in their life, who doesn't have these three areas in check. Good relationships, great health, fantastic wealth. That's it. It's that simple. And we need schools that focus on those three areas of people's lives. But we don't have those schools. We don't have those things. Why? Because it's not a priority. But I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to begin with relationships. I'm going to talk about relationships. I'm going to talk about men and women. That's why I'm starting this podcast, because it needs to be said. And we need spaces where men talk about their problems with women. Men have problems. And so that's what I'm going to talk about. First of all, I just want to say, before I continue, if you're listening to this podcast or if you're watching this on video, please make sure to like, comment, or subscribe to this video. If you're in support of this video, don't just watch it. Hit the like button. Subscribe to my channel. Okay? I want to give this content to you for free, and I want to continue doing this for free. I want to continue to coach people for free. But I need something from you guys. All I ask is that you like my video or subscribe to my channel. That's all I ask. Support the people that you agree with. Support the people that you want to help. Now, let's move into what men deal with in their relationships before we go into solutions, because that's why you're listening. You're listening because you want solutions. I'm going to give that to you for free today. You don't have to sign up for my coaching practice, even though I do believe you should. However, I'm going to give you 10 principles that have always aided men who are successful with women, 10 principles that will help you in your dealings, in your relationships with women. But before I get into that, let's talk about what men are dealing with right now that we are not talking about as a society. Men are not going to counseling or therapy. That's a problem for a variety of reasons. 1/3 of patients, 1/3 of people who go into therapy or counseling are men. Most of them are older men. What that means is that most young men are dealing with their issues on their own. Why? Because they have an ego problem. Because we are told in this society that men are not allowed to have emotions, that they're not allowed to express them. And there's a good reason for that. Many men, from my experience and from my coaching practice and from personal experience, many men that I've dealt with have been emotional or even vulnerable with the women that they're in relationships with. And what they learn the hard way is that women in particular don't really care about men's problems. Not that they don't care in general, but the man that they are with, they are hoping that the man they are with are leaders, are respectable men, that they can handle their problems. This poses a problem for many men. What this means is that most men have a hard time coming to their partners for emotional support. Many men learn this the hard way. And so what they have to do is they actually have to talk to their friends about their relationship problems. But guess what? Here's another problem. Men, when they're hanging out with other men, don't talk about their relationship problems. That's another problem. Something that helped me in my relationships, what helped me in my dating life, was talking about my relationship problems with other men. Not necessarily with my partners, but with the other men in my life, my friends. Having conversations with them about what I'm dealing with, what they're dealing with, and then comparing notes. Finding things in common. Realizing that we're essentially the same and that some of the same insecurities that my friends have, I have, and vice versa. We need spaces where men can talk about their relationship challenges. We need spaces where men can talk about how damaging it can be to be in a relationship with a woman who doesn't respect him. How damaging it is to be dating women who they're not happy with. Men are depressed. Men are insecure. Men feel small. Men feel inadequate. Men don't have the results they want. This is why I believe women are unhappy with men, because we are not telling men the truth about what women want. We need to save men, not because they are sad little puppies that need rescuing. No, we need to hold men accountable. But men need to hold men accountable, not the women. Men need to hold men accountable. We need to do a better job of making sure that our men are successful, are working on themselves, are ambitious, are educated, are giving value to the world. That is what we need to teach men. I could go on all day about this stuff, guys. But I want to keep it simple for the first video. I want to keep it simple for now, because in the weeks to come, I am going to talk ad nauseum about the different types of men there are when it comes to relationships with women. There are many types. For example, there are guys who I deem egomaniacs. Egomaniacs, we'll go into in the next podcast, are men who are more concerned about making sure they look good to themselves, who are more concerned about looking like they have results when in reality they don't. Those guys are in a category of themselves, egomaniacs, versus guys who are truth seekers. Truth seekers are men who want results, who are not concerned about looking good, who are not concerned about their ego. They check their ego at the door, and they are more concerned about what is it going to take for me to be happy and fulfilled in my relationships with women. They are on opposite spectrums. You're either an egomaniac or a truth seeker. In my dealings, in my coaching practice, that's what I see. You're either one or the other. You can't be in the middle. You have to be one or the other. We'll talk about that next week. What I'm going to focus in on now is men who are having challenges with women and they want to improve their results. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to take a 2-minute break. And in this 2-minute break, I would like for you guys to think about your relationships, particularly men. Think about your relationships with women. Think about the areas where you can improve with your relationships with women. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you 10 principles that I live by and that men who are successful in their dating and relationships with women live by. I'm going to give it away for free. 2-minute break. Okay, we are back. Now let's talk about the 10 principles that men who are successful in dating and relationships live by. I'm going to share with you right now. So let's begin. I wrote them down on a piece of paper so that I don't forget. Principle number 1, always level up. What do I mean by that? Particularly in your social skills and your relationships, in your health and fitness, and when it comes to money. These are the areas of your life you need to be leveling up in all the time. Why? Because women can sniff when they're around a guy who is not leveling up. Because they're not ambitious, because they're lazy, because they talk the talk, but they do not walk the walk. And women are not stupid. They know when you are for real and when you're not. And we'll talk about that on a different podcast. So you should always level up. Number 2, don't settle early. What do I mean by that? If you're a young man, you should be working on yourself. You should be working to be successful, whether it's in your career, whether it's working out, whether it's your social skills. You should always be working on yourself. But a lot of guys early on think that the girls that they're dealing with early in their life are the women they're going to deal with forever. As a young man in particular, you should not be settling for anyone. You should be working on yourself, focus in on your education, focus in on your career. Make sure that you have money in the bank. Work on that first, prioritize that first, and then you can focus in on a relationship. Don't settle early. Date early and often. As far as settling goes, we'll talk about that on a different podcast, but you should think about settling a little bit later in life. Not early, because you don't even know what you like early in your life. And so it's going to take you some dating, some experience for you to even figure out who you are and what you like and what you don't like. Don't settle early, fellas. Here's another one, a big one, abundance mindset. What does abundance mean? Abundance is the opposite of scarcity. Having an abundance mindset is believing that there are an abundance of beautiful women, that there are an abundance of women in general. Have an abundance mindset. If you lose one, there's somebody else around the corner that you can meet. Now, if you're somebody who's trying to settle, you're a guy who wants a relationship, a serious relationship, and you would like to be married someday, the same applies. You should still have an abundance mindset. Do not get stuck on one girl. So many guys that I meet in my coaching practice get stuck on one girl. They think this is the one. I'm going to marry her. I can just tell JC, I know this is the one. And then what they realize is that a year later, they break up with that girl and then they meet another girl. Then they say, this is the one, JC. I swear this is the one. And I'm like, well, what about the last one? You said the same thing about them. Oh, well, egomaniac. That's what that is. So have an abundance mindset. Realize that this idea that we've been sold, that there's only one person for you, that's a Disney dream. Okay? Do not fall for it. Personal responsibility. Everything is your fault, fellas. Everything. Do not blame women for your results. Blame yourself for your results. Always. Talk to other men about your problems. This might be a little controversial. Don't talk to your woman about your problems, particularly around things like your insecurities, because she doesn't care. She already knows your insecurities. There's no point in talking to her about it. Your challenge is to fix it, to become confident, to work on it. But in order for you to do that, you should confide in other men, in your relationships, and in your dating life. Here's another one. Have standards, fellas. Many men think they have standards, but they don't. If she's pretty, most men will tolerate bad behavior. They don't have boundaries. They say they have boundaries, but they don't. They tolerate terrible behavior from women, particularly because they don't have standards and because they don't have an abundance mindset. Leave bad situations. If you're in a dating situation or a relationship with a woman and it's not going well, you don't particularly like the way things are going, she's disrespectful, leave the relationship. Doesn't matter how pretty she is or how much your family likes her. Leave it, because you are wasting valuable time. Men who are successful know when to walk away. Here's another one. Destroy your ego. Because what's in the way of your results is your ego. And we'll go more in depth about this later, but just realize that that is particularly the thing that is in your way. It's almost always an ego issue, whether it's approaching women that you like, whether it's leaving a relationship that you've invested 10 years into, but you're not happy with, whether it's whatever. It's almost always an ego issue, particularly for men. Learn about women. Learn from other men who are successful with women or who are successful in relationships. Learn from them. They have a lot to offer. And the last principle is hire a coach or a mentor. Get close to somebody that you admire. This is essential for all areas of your life, not just with dating and relationships. All areas of your life. Hire a personal trainer if you want to get in shape. Hire a nutritionist. Hire a financial advisor. Hire a dating and relationship expert. These are the things that are going to take you from the level you're at to the next level. Why is it important to get a mentor? Because they will save you time. They are going to give you the best of the best because they have gone through what you've gone through before. The reason why I speak so passionately about this stuff is because I've been every guy. I've been every single guy that I've coached before. That's why I'm helpful. I have been the insecure guy. I've been the jealous guy. I've been the guy that couldn't talk to girls before. I've also been the guy that is never jealous. I'm also the guy that knows how to talk to girls. I'm also the guy that is successful in my relationships. But I hired coaches or found mentors or found people who are better than me in this area of my life. And that's how I was ultimately able to improve in this area of my life, because I put my ego aside, decided that I was actually a truth seeker because I cared more about results than my own ego. What I didn't want to be was a phony. What I didn't want to be was the guy who told my friends, hey, I do these things. Look at all these things that I do, but in reality, I don't have any results to back it up. And guess what? Men respect results. And so if you don't have the results to back it up, then you have an ego problem. And you need to hire somebody to help you check your ego. I'm out of time, people. This was fun. I hope that I opened a lot of eyes of men and women. I hope that what I've done today is that I've sort of clearly spelled out what it is that I do, why it is that it's important. Every single podcast that I do, I'm actually going to be sharing a lot of insights that I have from my coaching practice. I'm also going to be giving a lot of free advice that you guys would have to pay thousands of dollars for, but I'm going to give it away for free. Why? Because it's more important to me that I actually offer value to the world that I'm in than it is about being liked. And that's the world we live in today. People just want to be liked so bad. They just want likes on Instagram. They just want likes on YouTube. And that stuff's important. Don't get me wrong. That's why I ask you guys to engage with my YouTube channel, with my Instagram. All of that's cool. But I want to be a man of value. In order for me to do that is to actually offer value to the masses. Of course, I want money. Of course, I want success. But more important is to leave an imprint on this world. Not to hold this information to myself, but to give it away for free. Give it away to everybody who's in need of this, particularly men who either can't afford coaching right now, and ultimately to help the women. Why? Because I want to educate them on what men go through in their relationships and dating, but also because I want women to be happy with the men that they're with. The 80% divorce rate is a problem. It says that men are inadequate. I want to help the men level up. I want the men to have better outcomes. I want women to have better outcomes. And people cannot sit on their ass just doing nothing. We have to help each other. And so that's why I'm starting this. I'm starting this because I want to make change. And if I make change, all I ask is that you pay it forward. If this was helpful to you, share it with somebody else. If there's something that you know that could help other men. In other words, if you're somebody who's in a successful marriage and you're a man, if you're somebody who's dating and you're a man, share what you know with other men because we need people to be happy. Anyway, with that said, people, I'm signing off. I'll see you guys on the other side. And, this was fun, like I said. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you support the channel, please make sure to do those things. Hit the notification bell. And we're out. Thank you very much, New York. Thank you, Gotham Studios. I'll see you guys next time.